Colonel Richard Kemp's remarks quickly gained traction across British and international media, igniting a wave of political and public debate. Within hours of the Sky News Australia interview airing, social media platforms were flooded with commentary, some defending Prime Minister Keir Starmer, while others echoed Kemp's sentiment that modern politicians often stretch the truth to appear globally influential. Hashtags referencing both Starmer and Trump's Gaza plan began trending on X, formerly Twitter, turning the issue into a viral talking point about political credibility and media narratives. Among British politicians, reactions were mixed. Opposition figures seized on the moment to portray Starmer as opportunistic, accusing him of seeking association with a controversial U.S. policy for the sake of international prestige. Some Conservative Party members argued that the incident revealed a deeper pattern of overstatement within Starmer's leadership style, a tendency to claim influence over events beyond his reach. Meanwhile, Labour allies came to his defence, emphasising that the Prime Minister was merely reiterating Britain's continued support for peace and stability in Gaza, not attempting to rewrite the origins of Trump's plan. Political analysts viewed the uproar as a reflection of the current media climate, where soundbites often overshadow substance. Commentators pointed out that Starmer's statement, whether intentional or misinterpreted, provided an easy opening for critics like Kemp to question his authenticity. Public opinion, too, appeared divided, with some praising Kemp's candor as refreshing honesty, while others accused him of exaggerating the issue for attention. Ultimately, the incident became less about Trump's peace plan itself and more about how politicians navigate perception, credit, and accountability in an era of instantaneous scrutiny. Colonel Richard Kemp's response to Prime Minister Keir Starmer's claim was delivered with a mix of disbelief and irony. In his interview with Sky News Australia, the former British Army officer did not hold back, describing Starmer's attempt to associate himself with Donald Trump's Gaza peace plan as nothing short of absurd. "That is a great joke, and I wouldn't believe it except for the fact that we've got the same over here with Mr. Starmer doing the same thing," Kemp remarked, his tone reflecting both humor and frustration. He went on to add, "I think it's an infectious humor that we're seeing," implying that such political self-congratulation had become a contagious habit among leaders. Kemp's words carry particular weight given his long-standing reputation for frank assessments of political and military affairs. Having served as a commander in Afghanistan and as an advisor to the British government on counter-terrorism, his opinions often attract attention within both political and defense circles. To many observers, his criticism reflected not only a rejection of Starmer's claim but also a broader commentary on how political leaders sometimes manipulate narratives to appear globally influential. His remarks quickly spread across social and traditional media platforms, prompting a flurry of discussion among political commentators. Some agreed with Kemp's assessment, praising his candor and suggesting that politicians too often overstate their role in international diplomacy. Others argued that his reaction was exaggerated, noting that Starmer's statement may have been taken out of context. Regardless of interpretation, Kemp's comments struck a chord, turning what might have been a passing remark into a topic of national debate about honesty, humility, and political image management in the modern age.
Political storm has erupted after former British Army Colonel Richard Kemp publicly ridiculed UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer for allegedly trying to take credit for US President Donald Trump's Gaza peace plan. Kemp, a well-known commentator on defense and international affairs, expressed disbelief at Starmer's apparent attempt to associate himself with the success of a foreign policy initiative developed in Washington years before Starmer took office. His remarks came during an interview with Sky News Australia, where he described the situation as both a great joke and an infectious humor, suggesting that political leaders on both sides of the Atlantic were engaging in similar behavior, claiming credit for things that were never theirs to begin with. The exchange has sparked conversation about the fine line between diplomatic alignment and political opportunism. Critics argue that Starmer's comment, if meant seriously, reflects a broader trend of politicians seeking to project global influence by tying themselves to high-profile international developments. Supporters, however, insist that the Prime Minister's intention was merely to highlight the UK's continued support for peace efforts in the Middle East, not to appropriate ownership of an American-led initiative. As tensions rise over the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, the debate around Starmer's statement underscores the sensitivity of global diplomacy and political image-making. Kemp's sharp response has reignited discussion about leadership credibility, authenticity, and how far modern politicians will go to craft an international reputation. What began as a light remark has now turned into a symbol of the rivalry between perception and reality in contemporary politics.
Between Colonel Richard Kemp and Prime Minister Keir Starmer has evolved beyond a simple disagreement about diplomatic credit. It has become a revealing case study in modern political communication. In an age where image often outweighs substance, the incident underscores how easily a brief remark can be magnified into a global talking point. Starmer's attempt to emphasize Britain's support for peace in Gaza may have been well-intentioned, but the perception of self-congratulation exposed how precarious political messaging can be, especially when intertwined with sensitive international issues. For Kemp, his reaction was less about one statement and more about defending the principle of factual integrity in politics. His sarcastic tone, calling the claim a great joke, reflected not only his disbelief but also a broader frustration shared by many who see modern leaders as more focused on narratives than on truth. His comments resonate with a growing public sentiment that demands authenticity and accountability from those in power. The episode also highlights the enduring complexity of the Gaza conflict and how Western leaders, even indirectly, navigate its political symbolism. Aligning with peace initiatives is often seen as a display of global responsibility, yet it can backfire when claims appear inflated or opportunistic. As the dust settles, both Starmer and Kemp emerge as figures in a wider discussion about credibility, one rooted not in the specifics of Trump's plan, but in the broader challenge of maintaining trust in political discourse. In a world driven by headlines and half-truths, the incident serves as a reminder that perception remains one of a leader's most fragile assets. The uproar began when Prime Minister Keir Starmer made remarks that appeared to position the United Kingdom, and by extension, his leadership, as a key supporter or even an influencing force behind Donald Trump's Gaza peace plan. While Starmer's exact phrasing was open to interpretation, many observers perceived it as an attempt to align his government's diplomatic posture with a major US-led peace initiative. His comments, intended to highlight Britain's long-standing commitment to stability in the Middle East, were swiftly interpreted by critics as self-congratulatory and historically inaccurate. At the time of Trump's plan being unveiled in 2020, Starmer was not in government but serving as a senior member of the opposition Labour Party. Therefore, any direct involvement by him or the UK government under his leadership in shaping or supporting the plan was effectively impossible. This factual inconsistency fueled reactions like that of Colonel Richard Kemp, who dismissed the claim as a great joke. However, defenders of Starmer argue that his statement was misunderstood or misrepresented. They insist that the Prime Minister's intention was not to claim credit for Trump's initiative, but rather to underline his government's present-day commitment to supporting peace negotiations and humanitarian relief efforts in Gaza. In this interpretation, his words were more about continuity of British diplomatic principles than about rewriting history. Still, in a political landscape where every statement is scrutinized for motive and meaning, Starmer's comment provided ample fuel for critics eager to challenge his authenticity. The episode illustrates how even a single phrase, when connected to sensitive geopolitical issues, can ignite a firestorm of debate about leadership integrity and international credibility.